Hello and welcome to the Hour of Politics. Ansony Sieh, always your host. Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things our dear country, Liberia. Welcome to yet another analytical edition of the Hour of Politics. Do us that favor. Share the broadcast with your contact. The topic is to give you an insight as to how the political field going to play out hell into 2023 general and presidential elections. And I'm here to do my best to lay it out for you so that you can get a unique sense of how things are going to play out, not only political activities, but all the political maneuvering and the tactics and all the candidates will be up to. So folks, we can welcome you enough to yet another edition of the Hour of Politics. The topic for today is Ascend, the 2023 political playbook to election day. So you want to read this book with me, then you want to be here. If you have a friend who wants to get some, or who you believe needs some understanding as to how things going to play out from now to election day, invite that friend, invite that neighbor, and let us get a picture and go through the pages of this political playbook that I am bringing to you free of charge so that you can read and know what are going to be in it. And so, folks, welcome. And let us get started quickly. But as always, we don't usually get started until we introduce our network. So don't go anywhere. We are starting momentarily.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Ansony Sieh with the topic, the 2023 political playbook to election day. I'm sorry there. Again, the 2023 political playbook to election day. So let us read the book and pay attention carefully. And if you have a pen you want to take note, maybe you should just listen. So folks, at long last, there is some semblance of clarity. It is like what will have become a serious political confusion and noise and trouble is more like out of the way. In this analysis, with this topic, we will be raising questions, and those questions will be answered with the analysis that we have packaged for you. So let us get to it now by asking the first question. But before that, let us tell you how the political landscape is. In Liberia, for 2023, we have had two major sides. We believe have some numbers on their side for the political contest of 2023. One side is the ruling coalition for democratic change of President George Malawiya. Seditionists would like to call him Doctor. I think it's meaningless, and it's just meaningless. But that's for another day, folks. The other side has been the opposition community. Now, fast forward, that opposition community was smart enough to have known that in order for them as a unit, as a political community, to defeat the CDC, it needed to come together. That was smart. Even though we didn't have all of the political parties in Liberia within that then collaboration called CPP, may it rest in perfect peace. I hope it resurrects. Even if it resurrects, I don't know how strong it will be, but the picture is that was the Liberian opposition that thing came together, and that was a brilliant idea. Now, that collaboration had represented quite squarely a majority bloc of the entire opposition. Why? You may ask. Of the opposition political parties in Liberia, there are three big ones. The Unity Party is number one. The Liberty Party is number two. Number three is the ANC. These three political parties I named did well with numbers in the election of 2017. And if you put their numbers together, using last election results, that is an automatic victory for them if you're looking at the numbers. So they saw that and they came together. And when other political parties saw that, they were on a wait and see. They were also hoping that whoa, they knew that that collaboration in terms of numbers was strong. And so any other collaboration was like a waste of time. And any other collaboration, like the Rainbow Coalition that was in the making, was almost like willing, if it were to be asked, to even join the CPP. What I'm saying is the Liberian opposition community has a representative. That representative or that representation was the CPP. So we had the CPP representing the opposition community and the Coalition for Democratic Change representing the ruling government of President George Manawia. So these were the two political blocs that we had. At some point, the CPP ran into chaos and so much trouble. They landed in court. And what happened? That CPP went into tatters. Its constituent members have been at each other's throat. Now, what we've seen now is that political hurdle is out of the way. Now, the charges against Mr. Cummings have been dropped. Unity Party, that the ANC and the Musability wing of the Liberty Party have filed a lawsuit to stop from feeding candidates. It's clear from what feeding candidates, because the Supreme Court of Liberia shut down that controversial exit clause that many believe have had the potential to stop the Unity Party from feeding candidates or stopping Joseph Boakai from running in the upcoming election. So these two had the potential to have carried on into political chaos and, if possible, unrest. Because the potential was that Cummings could have been found guilty and would be legally handicapped from contesting. And Boakai, if the case against the Unity Party, has gone against Mr. Boakai will have also become politically handicapped and legally handicapped, to put it right, to contest. And these two major contenders in the opposition community, who were, in fact, were together and should have been together, but then started chopping each other up politically. So if all of these variables that I just named, these two variables I just named, have played out against these individuals, it would have been chaotic because their supporters would not have taken it. They would have protested. The protests could have gotten, problematic, and probably election 2023 would have been so much messed. That is out of the way. Waka is clear to contest. Cummings is clear to contest. The CPP, unfortunately, remains in coma. The Supreme Court shut down that controversial asset clause. Term is as unconstitutional. So what happens? Do we have a CPP? But let's make progress here. So let us go to the issue here. I asked the question earlier. Have the court cases done an irreparable damage to the CPP constituent parties? Because these CPP constituent parties were more like the representation of the entire opposition bloc, because they together collectively had a huge chunk of votes that, when put together, would defeat President Weah. So these court cases that suck the energy out of them, that place a bad blood between them, is say irreparable because of the bad blood, the language, the fight, the bitterness that existed, the insult, the disrespect, all of these things that existed between them. It's that relationship that was so much significant, more so if put together, will mean a victory for the opposition community. It's a damage beyond repair. It's a irreparable. In other words, given what had happened, are they able to work together? Or are they not able to work together? That is a significant question. So, folks, it is so severe and it was so bad. And many of you who follow know this and know this very well. Know this very well, that will have a significant impact on how these three major political parties, the parties with the bigger, with the largest numbers, that can, when put together. Sorry, folks. Why this guy is disturbing me, man? Hold on, folks. Let me let this guy know, because he will not stop. All right. When put together, will mean an automatic victory for the opposition bloc. So let us add this question to that. What have been and will be the impact of the court cases on the then members of the CPP going into 2023? So as I was saying, given what has happened, the cohesiveness that's supposed to subsist between these three major parties is more than unlikely. Even if they try, there will be some elements, there will be some people, there will be some supporters who would not want to see that. And that is the danger that is on the side of the opposition. Because minus these three parties putting together, the three parties that have the biggest chunk of votes, if they split, it puts the CDC in a much better position that the CDC would be in if the opposition were together, or the three major parties were to be together. So is it now safe to say there is a level playing field now, a level playing field for electoral politics in 2023? yes, we can simply say that there is a level playing field because Walker is clear to contest, Cummings is clear to contest. If there is any impact also that this particular fracas and fiasco and infighting and blunders that took place, among these three major political parties, if any impact is going to have going forward, will that impact be positive or will it be negative? The impact is going to have, folks, is that on the positive side, as they go forth to form their individual collaboration, any of these parties, as they go forward to form their individual collaboration, they will be guided by the mistakes that they made. They will be guided by the things that led them into the confusion. And they will do everything to avoid that. So if there is any positive impact it's going to have, arguably that is going to be. Now, what that means is that if Cummings, who and Ability are like left in the CPP, in going forward, want to grow the CPP, want to maintain the CPP, and grow it as a much bigger political collaboration, they will first of all decide firsthand who's going to be their candidate. Now, if you are aware, Mr. Cummings has said, well, the fact that Mr. Bwaka and Mr. Cummings, were the only person in the CPP contesting for the CPP or standard bearer position, and now that Bwaka has walked away or the Unity Party has left, he is automatically the CPP candidate because he is the only one with interest. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Cummings and his Covedan Musa Ability will not act swiftly. I think they're going to act very swiftly to decide that immediately. So that any other person coming in the CP, they're going to tell the person, hey, if you are coming, we have already decided our candidate. It's more than likely Mr. Cummings is our candidate because we had a good experience and that was bad for us. We don't want to go through that route. So once had to decide to pledge loyalty or agree that Cummings is going to be the automatic, or stand-up bearer for, whatever CPP is going to be. They are going to be clear on that. Now, it's a positive. It's positive because, the good thing is that it's going to avoid, the repeat of what happened in the CPP when they said, well, we're going to have consensus, well, we're going to have primary. That's the only thing, because it will prevent any of such chaos from happening again. Now, on the other side, if you are aware, Jose Imambwaka, there is a coalition being put together or collaboration being put together called the Democratic Alliance of Liberia, DAL. Now, they are putting it together and the organizers are clear. Joseph Bwaka is the guy they're going to ordain. They're going to ordain him to be their candidate. Any other person coming in there, the only thing that's going to be deciding now is whether who's going to be the vice presidential candidate. Is it Bwaka who's going to decide? Is there going to be a vote among the parties that are going to be within the DAL? My understanding is that besides Unity Party, the rest of the parties, they are all mushroom parties, and about 10 of them, and maybe that number might even grow. But that number of parties that they're talking about, they don't have significant number. So that is not going to be a much stronger collaboration compared to what the CPP had, which was strong, which was tested, and has proven that, it was a winning ticket, or it could be a winning ticket against President Weah. So let's also say, will the opposition be less strong with feeble morale, momentum, and appeal to the voters compared to the ruling CDC? The answer is a resounding yes. Like I said, any collaboration that does not consist of the three major and bigger opposition political parties is not stronger, will not have a much better momentum because you have a horse that is divided. And once the horse is divided, it is not stronger. It is feeble. It will not have a strong morale whatsoever. So the momentum is going to be weak. Now, if you compare that with the momentum the CPP had when they were winning nearly all of the by-elections, when it has engendered hope in the Liberian people, when trust was placed into the CPP, when Liberians from all walks of life, especially those who have serious fundamental problems with the ruling government, were all coming together in support of the CPP, with this division, with they dividing their strength, dividing their numbers. No, there is no way whatever collaboration is put together that does not see the coming together of the three major parties. I don't see how it's going to be strong. It is going to be less stronger. It's going to be feeble, and it's not going to have as much momentum as possible. And it will constitute less threat to the CPP compared to if the CPP were to hold. It would have constituted a significant threat to the CDC. Then the CDC knew this all along. And that's why the CDC, when these guys took themselves to the CDC code, the CDC took advantage of it. The CDC exploited it in the court of law, and the CDC diminished them. Now, let us go into details here quickly. So let's talk about what happened in the CPP, the court cases a little more. Did Cummings win or lose bigly or both? Because right now, what we're seeing here is that it's more so like Walker is going with his own, Cummings is going with his own, except where they see reason to come together, which is much more less likely as I see it. And they can well decide to do so, but that is what I see for now. So now that Cummings is going along, all right, did he actually win anything, or did he lose anything bigly, or both? I would say Cummings did lose a lot. Number one, his reputation was questioned. His character was brought to question. He got exhausted in the court. The whole thing about Mr. Cummings being this clean guy and who has been saying, well, we can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. He had decided to collaborate with people with questionable characters. That now, Mr. Cummings, it has become debatable. It is an argument now. People are going to doubt it. People are not going to believe it. Those who are going to believe it, are those who will even believe it, even if it were not said. That would be the ANC folks. But for those who were looking to see evidence, to see proof, to see record, to see consistency as to who Mr. Cummings is, I don't think they are on board with that. Now, so Mr. Cummings did lose a lot from the court case. His integrity was brought to question. His name was dragged in the mud. He did everything humanly possible. And at the end of the day, what happened? The case was dropped. Now, what he wanted to see was to have been exonerated in the court of law. That did not happen. The case was dropped. Now, also, there were no evidence that were corroborated in the court of law. So that cannot be claimed as Mr. Cummings was exonerated. The charges were dropped. So the argument, what Mr. Cummings was looking for in the court, he did not get it. He wanted to be exonerated. He wanted to be acquitted. He never wanted to be convicted. Though he was not convicted, but he did not get the exoneration that he needed in the court of law to run with that they accused me of doing this, they accused me of fingering the document and forging signatures. We went to the court, we won the case. That is what Mr. Cummings needed most. And they said it, that they will be exonerated But that did not happen. Now, what it also said is that what we believe the case will be thrown out of court because there's no evidence that happened. But that was what they had to settle for. They settled for that because it became likely that that's the only thing they could get, and they could not actually get what would have been a strong ruling in Mr. Cummings' favor that he will use to maintain his character intact, to maintain this lecture of clean hands that they did not get because they didn't get it. And so it remains now debatable. Now, the other thing we also need to know is how will the CPP fiasco shape the formation of official collaborations? And I think I answered that already. From this fiasco that happened, from the whole fiasco that happened, going forward, they will all be careful. Cummings might be more than careful now who he brings, but Cummings is still in a tight place there. He's still dealing with Musa Belete. He can't let Musa Belete go. Letting Musa Belete go will be very, very problematic with Mr. Cummings or for Mr. Cummings. Why? Because Musa Belete too has a own following. If Musa Belete is let go because Mr. Cummings wants to maintain that he does not want to deal with people with questionable characters, that would be numbers taken away from him. When he maintains Musa Belete, which I suppose he's going to do, then he cannot preach that he is this man who, because he's clean, he has a reputable character, and so he's dealing with reputable people. Because, the thing is, show me your friend, and I will tell you who you are. Mr. Cummings' friend is Musa Belete. Now, in the court of public opinion, Musa Belete does not have good reputation. Musa Belete have had issues with FIFA. Now, so Cummings is between the Caesars. Cummings has now become the typical politician who will roll with anybody, even if that person has questionable character, or because he thinks it benefits his political borderline. So that is contradictory to Cummings' mantra of we can't be doing the same thing over and over. But I am not naive to understand that Cummings, in his calculation, is betting on the fact that this is a numbers, this is a numbers game. This game of politics is about numbers. And you don't want to lose numbers. The issue of the narrative, he thinks they can fight it. And maybe he also believes that because President Weah is doing terribly, the masses, the voters, will more than be inclined to settle for a Cummings who associates with a questionable character, though seen as a good guy, because President Weah is that bad. That is why he's betting on. But the manias on Cummings' side here is that saying you can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different result. He should stop it. He should drop it. He is not on that moral ground anymore to say that when he associates with Musa Belete, who has a questionable character. Cummings will have to do everything to keep Musa Belete for political numbers. And that is all he's going to do. Because Musa Belete, he comes from his community. The Mandingo community, it has a huge and reliable voting bloc. Musa is a popular person, is a leader in that Mandingo community. Musa has influence on a good number of the Mandingo voting bloc in our country. There are more Mandingo people who will go where Musa go, even though will not be all of them, because Musa is a leader in our community. A lot of them respect Musa. Musa is their son. Musa is their kinsman. And at some point, some of them feel that they need to be part and parcel of the decision making. And the way they know best is to follow one of their own who is a player in the field. And Musa definitely is a key player in the field. So Cummings is not going to cut loose Musa on the basis of integrity, on the basis of preaching clean hands. And the reason he's making that bet is because what George, in his opinion, is doing is far worse. The CDC record is far worse. The CDC history, the corruption history of the CDC is far worse than that of Musa ability. And if the Liberian people are to vote on the issue of change, that desire for change will supersede and Musa ability and Cummings would be the lesser of two evils in their calculation. And the Liberian people will settle for them because Georgia is that bad. That is the calculation. Now, so let's talk collaboration a little more. If Cummings is to succeed, he must build a collaboration. What kind of collaboration can Cummings build to succeed? Cummings has the narrowest chance of making it to the second round if you put Cummings, Bouaka, and Josh Weah in the mix. Of the three, Cummings has the narrowest chance of making it to the second round. So what is Cummings' path now that he's a free man, as we know that the charges have been dropped against him? How can this man with the narrowest chance make it to the second round? It has to be through a collaboration that he builds. Now, if he is building a collaboration, where does he get the parties from, and what kind of parties can he rely on? Are there parties out there that have the numbers that Cummings can tap into? There's not much out there. No. In terms of numbers, there's not much out there. Yeah, we have a list of political parties, but those are just names. And the numbers that they are very much insignificant. Mind you now, Mr. Cummings in 2017 netted 112,000 votes. That is almost like 300,000 votes share. 300,000 votes share of what Joseph Jiman Bouaka got. Because Mr. Joseph Jiman Bouaka got about 400,000. So how can Cummings get the 400,000 votes and plus that Bouaka gets for him to make it to the second round? How does he get that? The way he gets that number is, number one, if Bouaka were to be out of the picture, he gets it automatically. But that is the most difficult of all, because Bouaka has his supporters and his party that believe in him. In fact, Bouaka is acting swiftly, or others are acting swiftly on his behalf and putting a coalition together, because these actors know Bouaka begged 400,000 votes. And the main fact that he begged that 400,000 votes just about the time he has left power, when the Unity Party was more like the boogeyman, Liberian people were tired with the Unity Party. And yet Joseph Bouaka had begged that 400,000 votes. That time, George Weah, forgive me for that, was the political favorite at the time. Joshua was the political favorite at the time. Joshua represented change at the time. But that Joshua cannot claim that change anymore. So those who voted for change in favor of Joshua and do not see change in Joshua, if they are thinking about who can possibly win, some will settle for Joseph Jiman Bouaka. So the actors are thinking Joseph Bouaka might be able to grow his number. He will be able to grow his numbers. So Cummings shortest, surest, and best option to making it to second round is to just get Joseph Boakai out of the way. But that is the most difficult thing to do. How he does it, I don't know. There are a few options. One, buy Joseph Boakai out. Is it doable? More than unlikely. But can Cummings put it off? That would be a tough sell. So his options of getting Joseph Boakai will depend or is contingent. His option of getting Joseph Boakai out is contingent on Joseph Boakai's goodwill. Joseph Boakai's willingness to take a cut and walk away. And that is more than unlikely. So they feel could not be so much difficult for Cummings. So that is out of the way. What other option does Mr. Cummings have? Does Mr. Cummings have to get first the 400,000 votes to put him into the category of making it to the second round? I was talking about to grow the CPP and bring other political parties in. Why are the other parties? UPP, the United People's Party, is nowhere. LPP is still in political slumber. Tiawan Gonglo is trying to resuscitate it. It has not gained steam yet. If he goes for it, he gets very few numbers. Can he do that? Any number counts, right? So that's it. Then where are the other parties? We heard about the Rainbow Coalition. What I also know is most of the parties within the Rainbow Coalition are now within the DAL, the Democratic Alliance of Liberia, being put together for Mr. Boakai. So Cummings had to act so fast here and try to get just about any number he can get right now. Is he acting fast enough? Because at the end of the day, getting Boakai out is the toughest option, which is so slim. So he cannot bend on that, even though that is the surest way. So he has to be able to be forceful to grow the CPP. And I'm sorry to say there's not much. Now, he's going to get some Liberty Party folks who we know are openly supporting him. That Liberty Party wing that Musa Belete controls. And whether or not that is significant to get him close to 300,000 is another thing. Now, the ANC continues to say it is the fastest growing political party. It has structures in all the counties. But when we look at the by-elections results, the ANC won the few seats it won because of the CPP. So I'm saying the ANC did not win the seats it won because of the ANC. The ANC candidate won those seats because of the CPP. And the CPP was Unity Party and Liberty Party voters putting together and going for that ANC produced candidate for the CPP. Now that that is out of the way, it has diminished the ANC numbers significantly. It has diminished Mr. Cummings' chances significantly. So that is something that the ANC folks need to see. And that is why they don't see. They are only banking on hope. They are only banking on hope because there's not much there for them in Liberty Party. There is not much out there with the other political parties. A united Liberty Party will mean something with Cummings that which he does not have. So Cummings to get close to 200,000 votes will be tough. And so I will leave this to say Mr. Cummings' chance of making this to the second round is very slim. The surest way that is possible, I maintain, is to get Boakai out of the picture. And then Boakai people will reluctantly, a good number of them will come on his side because at the end of the day, there are reasons to believe that they would rather settle for an opposition candidate other than President George Manawia. That is what I think is most likely. Now, so for Mr. Bwaka, what are his chances? Now that he has become his own man with his Unity Party, and now that a coalition is being put together, as we are hearing about 10 political parties. Now, there are reasons to believe or not to believe that Mr. Bwaka can maintain what he got in the last election that took him to the second round. So if Mr. Bwaka gets that, and I don't have any doubt that Mr. Bwaka, if he stays in the race, can very well get that very number that took him to second round. He can very well get it. So if he gets it, he's into the second round. And there where his trouble will surface. Because when he gets to the second round, he will need all the help that he can get. And the place he must get that help will be from the ANC. And that is more like unlikely for him to get all that help because of what happened. Because the Unity Party was with the ALP, with this court case, they play politics with it, coming suffer it. Coming suffer it so dearly. And the coming folks even should come and tell them that, well, we didn't make it to the second round, let's support Bwaka. They are not going to do it. That would be like what happened in the United States. When Bernie Sanders did not get the Democratic Party nomination, those exuberant voters and supporters of Bernie Sanders who felt that he was not treated well decided to say, we're not voting for Hillary Clinton. And that number that stayed away and decided not to vote at all, some who voted through protest against Hillary Clinton, that helped to get Donald Trump narrowly to the presidency. That just maybe. So the Bwaka people need to be aware of that and start softening the ground. They have to do everything to make peace, even if they cannot come back in the collaboration. How they do that, it is more than unlikely. So that is why, folks, the bad blood that existed between or among these political parties will continue to have a serious negative impact on how the entire opposition comes together to defeat President Weah. Now, that is in no way, shape, and form that President Weah is going to win. President Weah is vulnerable. His vulnerability will be like the Atlantic Ocean if the opposition comes together. But if the opposition stays apart, he will be less vulnerable. And the fact that he has cash in his hand, even though money is not going to win the upcoming election, anger going to win this election. The narrative going to win this election. The reality going to be the win this election. So whoever taps into the reality, whoever taps into the anger, whoever crafts the necessary narrative, whoever pushes its assembly, told the Liberian people with a message of change, and that person preaching that message of change might indeed be a symbol of what change actually is. If that person is not a symbol of change, then it's going to be the tough sell. Let us make progress. So another thing Mr. Cummings can do, if I can come back to him, to increase his narrowest chance of making it to the second round before talking about whether he will win it or, is to resort to what I will call the politics of do or die. Do or die politics must be applied. And there where Mr. Cummings into play like a politician. So what is the do or die politics I'm talking about? So if the Democratic Alliance of Liberia being put together for Jose Yomabwaka is all registered and all together, when the players and the actors and the political parties become known to the Liberian people, when they are set to go, Mr. Cummings will know the players. All he needs to do is to go in there and throw wedge in the whole thing. Some people listening to me say, what kind of guy is this? This is politics. If you want to win, you have to fight, and you all the strategies to your disposal. Mr. Cummings can use other actors or his very self and go into that collaboration and put wedge into the whole thing. He can use his money. People say he has money. I'm not sure of that. I want to believe so, but I'm not sure. And just as he's being accused of buying people over, let him do that. He has to do everything to destroy that collaboration. Buy people out of there. And in fact, if I were Mr. Cummings, I will ensure that that collaboration does not even hold, that it will not come to fruition. I will kill it on day one. But does he have the political eyes to do so? Does he have the political understanding that to overlook a potential contender against your chances is a huge risk to your chances? Does Cummings understand that? Do folks in the ANC understand that? You can't only focus on your effort. You have to keep your eyes on the ball, on the other side, on your opponent. What is your opponent's strongest bullet or weapon or strategy? It will serve you well to destroy that strategy of your opponent. Because when that happens, it weakens that opponent and it strengthens your chances. Politics 101, right? They have to be ready to play. Is Mr. Cummings prepared to do that? Now, if Cummings is not prepared to do that, there is another bloc that is prepared to do that. That person is President Weah and the CDC. They have the money. They pass a budget filled with campaign money. I have no doubt. Now, there have been allegations already in the open space that the CDC is paying some actors within the Unity Party. Now, this has not been confirmed by Focus on Liberia. But folks, some of these things that we hear can be very true. Oh, yes, these things can be very true. So we are hearing, we have heard, yet to confirm though, that Mo Ali and the person who raised this serious allegation is Ben Sanvi. I'm going to call his name here. He's a friend and he's a politician, by the way. So calling a politician, he shouldn't be a problem because he was on there on his social media. He said it, opened it in a public space, that Mo Ali is getting paid from the CDC. Is that true? If that is true, why if they offer this man $100,000, a huge amount of money that he has not seen in his lifetime, will he reject it? When it comes to the point where he is not that sure of a Bwaka's win, can he reject $100,000 when he's not sure what's going to happen? Can he? Now, another person, this is all rumor. This has not been confirmed, but sometimes these rumors, we have to use them because they can well become true too, right? So another person who supports Mr. Bwaka is Mr. Henry Pedro Costa. This guy, he has some following. Now, I believe he's one of those who resurrected Joseph Nyampang Bwaka's campaign. He stayed on that ticket. Of late, he has been in some kind of a rapport with the ruling establishment. There's been one allegation here and there that he's receiving money. He has softened his tone. He's calling Magil now his friend. He's admittedly working with the government. Look, if anyone we know who has been in this business for what he gets, Mr. Costa is being accused of being number one. Why if he accepts an offer from the CDC? Because the CDC has the money. And he opens up ballistically against Mr. Bwaka. Would that do some damage to Mr. Bwaka? Mind you, in 2005, he did. He gave Mr. Bwaka all these names. He called Mr. Bwaka a dead man walking. He said Mr. Bwaka has no fresh ideas, that Mr. Bwaka cannot run this country. He called him a tribalist, sadistic, all manner of names. But now he dances Bwaka's music. And the reason he does that is because what he hopes to get. It is not love for Bwaka. It's not love for Liberia. It is love for his stomach, for his pocket, and what he gets. Bwaka deficiency is money. Now, if there's anything Costa posts premiums on, it's money. So whoever offers that money, he will well do business with that person, as we have seen. So I'm saying to say, if Mr. Cummings is not to do that, Mr. Weir and the CDC might do that, or definitely will do that. Not might, but they will surely do that. They're being accused of doing it anyway. Actors within the ranks and file of Bwaka are being accused of taking some money anyway. So now that they are taking crumbs and maybe giving information, or they are on the payroll of CDC, if that is anything true, then how would they object to payday when the big bonus will be rolling on campaign on the date of campaign or during the campaign time? Why would they want to reject that? Can they take the money and stick to Bwaka? But if some would take the money and stick to Bwaka, some would take the money and not work with Bwaka. Some would take the money and release damaging information about Bwaka. Now, can Cummings play smart just with the surety and certainty that the CDC is going to go after Bwaka anyway? So, well, let us not play dirty politics. Let us play Mr. Nice, because CDC is going to do the damage, and then we'll just be the beneficiary. Just as Ure took Cummings to court, Bwaka was relaxing, and Cummings were getting politically suffocated, and his name was being damaged and tainted, and Bwaka was just chilling. At the end of the day, somewhere, somehow, in the eyes of some people, he's a much better person. Oh, come on. I don't think that does make him a much better person, because he did not show leadership. He helped and contributed to destroying what was a surest way of defeating President Weir. So that strategy did not help him. Saving the CPP then, and he doing everything to have become the CPP Senate bearer was the surest way to his presidency, because the path he's taking now is very similar to the path of 2017, when he got humiliated. So this is more of the same. He never had the Liberty Party that has significant votes in his basket. He never has the ANC that also has some significant votes in his basket. This is what is happening. Getting a tiny or half of the Liberty Party does not cut the deal for Bouaka. And losing the ANC does not cut the deal for Bouaka. So let us look at the CDC a little bit. So with all this that happened, all that I've said, did George Weah get a short or long-term benefit from the court cases, one against Mr. Cummings, which has been dropped, and the other one against mainly the Unity Party and Mr. Bouaka? The damage that was done, the benefits accrued there about politically by President Weah, are those benefits long-term or short-term? In other words, now that the court cases are over and these men are free to contest, we are sure now that they're going to be in the election. Does it mean that the benefit to Mr. Weah disappear? Because if they were to still be in court and taking their time and energy and resources, spending it on court cases, and not focusing on campaign and taking the fight to President Weah will be in a much better position. But now that that is out of the way, does the benefit accrue by President Weah now become just a short-term benefit? Is over? Or with that benefit that the CPP is damaged, stay with President Weah? And is he going to use it? That is likely. Because President Weah and the CDC now going to say, look at these people. They can't even work together. They beg in opposition. They say they were coming together. They say we were bad. They say I'm not a leader. But yeah, they are. They try to pull a CPP together, or collaboration together. They failed. They couldn't work together. Will that benefit, that narrative benefit accrue by President Weah as a result of this CPP failure? Will it be a long-term benefit for him going into the election? All depends what kind of force and fight the opposition take to the Weah's administration. It will depend on what kind of fight. If they are robust in their fight, if they highlight all the ills, and they take the fight to the CDC, whatever the CDC says will not count. Because the corruption cases, the economic situation in the country. Now, the CPP was doing that very well, even though, technically I shouldn't say very well. It was just the idea that they were together, which was symbolic and had a symbolic message and has in general hope in the people. But maybe I should give them some credit. They were bombarding the CDC. They were taking a fight to the CDC. And that was burying the CDC chances. So I'm saying, though they are not together now, but in their individual blocks, if they take a much better fight to the CDC consistently, highlighting the ills in the society, the bad economic situation, the corruption, and going from county to county, taking the media, using the airwaves to bombard the CDC and to inform the electors and tell them how bad things are. Mr. Weah chances, the CDC chances will so well be diminished. So, if this opposition community is able to do that individually, then that benefit will not be long-term for George Weah. That benefit may well disappear right now because the variables have changed. We have a Bwaka who is clear to run. We have a Cummings who is clear to run. We have a Tier 1 who cannot be stopped right now. The only person who can stop him is himself. Whatever number or numbers Tier 1 has, that number is a takeaway from either Cummings or from Bwaka, and very well so from President Weah. So if Tier 1 is to also be pounding this government, even if people were not listening to the Cummings of the world and the Bwakas of the world, if Tier 1 gets stronger and better and forceful, and if people start to listen to him, that short-term benefit President Weah got will not be long-term, because people might be looking at Tier 1. They will be focusing on the issues. They will be focusing on their pocketbook. They will not be listening to whatever CDC will have to say against these people. So then, how will the CDC use this quote story, and will that be a winning narrative for the CDC? So there's something the CDC can do also to increase its chances and reduce the chances of Bwaka and Cummings, because these are the two folks that they are very well concerned about. That if they are to go against any of them, it will not be a walk in the park for them. So they will do everything humanly possible to damage them, to reduce them, make them look ugly in the first round before even talking about the second round. That is the CDC strategy. And when they succeed with that, and then in the second round, which is a very short term, because after the runoff, there's not much time left for people to really campaign heavily. So they want to do as much damage as possible and pin these two individuals in the eyes of the Liberian people are people who are greedy and no different, and that they are better. So what is the CDC going to do? What kind of narrative the CDC is going to preach? So this is what the CDC is going to do, folks. You remember those who are here in US and follow US politics. Let me give a scenario so you can understand that the CDC may well do something that will have impact. Now, whether or not that impact will be significant to get them at the top is something I'm not prepared to say, because it's not guaranteed. It depends on how well they will do it. And it will also depend on how well the people will receive it. Number one, to those who follow US politics, Hillary Clinton was running in 2016. Hillary Clinton went against Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the candidate of the Republican Party. Prior to that campaign time, Hillary Clinton served as Secretary of State in the Obama administration. It was during her term as Secretary of State when there was this incident that happened in Libya in a place called Benghazi. The Republican Party said Hillary Clinton showed no leadership, and she didn't care, and she didn't pick up the phone number, that there was a call that came from the embassy requesting help. And as Secretary of State, who was in charge of all embassies around the world for or by the United States, she did not send the help the embassy needed. And that was the reason Americans got killed at the embassy in Libya. So during the time of the campaign, the Republican Party took that issue and stuck it on Hillary Clinton. They said Hillary Clinton was not a leader. Her inaction led to the deaths of so many Americans. So it was Benghazi, 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 Benghazi. That excited Republican voters who don't like the Democrats and who don't like Hillary Clinton. Independent voters who saw images of Americans being killed, their embassy being set on fire. Some of them believed that the Republicans were right, and they had an argument that Hillary Clinton did not send the help that those Americans at the embassy in Libya needed to protect themselves. And the fact that she showed serious inaction, she was responsible for what happened. And so for that reason, they didn't see her as the right choice at the time. That took away votes from Hillary Clinton. That brought more votes to the Republican Party. That brought more Republican voters outside. That made more Republican voters to even go outside and encourage other people to vote, because for them that was bad. And so Hillary Clinton was undeserving of the US presidency. Fast forward, Donald Trump also took emails. There were emails that were leaked. Hillary Clinton was being accused of not using a server that was saved and given to her as a diplomat of the US government, and that she was using her personal email to conduct government business. On the flip side, the emails were hacked and released to the public. And there was some confidential information. They said that the US government intelligent information, some intelligent information were compromised. So Trump took that email thing and hammer it and hammer it and hammer it on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was made to look bad in the eyes of Republicans. It excited more Republican voters. It discouraged independent voters from going Hillary Clinton's way. That even helped to discourage young Democratic voters who were sympathetic to Bernie Sanders, and the fact that their Bernie Sanders did not get the nomination, Hillary, who got it, was this bad as Republicans had painted her on Benghazi and emails. What happened? Hillary Clinton will go to lose the election narrowly to a Trump who was no good candidate. Trump had his own baggage at the time. What was that? The Access Hollywood tape that leaked at the time. It was bad. As bad as it was, Trump still won the election narrowly because the Republican did so well. They hammered Hillary Clinton consistently on the emails and Benghazi. So in the eyes of more Republican voters and more independent voters, and on the flip side, because Democrats were not excited about Hillary Clinton, whereas the Republicans were excited about Trump, even though he had his own issue, Trump will go to win the election. So this is what the CDC can possibly do. They can hammer Joe Walker. They can hammer Mr. Cummings. And if they do, what would they be using? Because in the case of the Republican Party, they have Benghazi on Hillary Clinton, and they also have emails on Hillary Clinton that they hammer, that they use. They prosecuted Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party on that, and they succeeded. So if the CDC is going to go after Mr. Walker, if the CDC is to go after Mr. Cummings, what would they be using? That is the juice of it all. And I'm bringing it to you. But before I can get to it, I will take a short break. And when I come back, What does the CDC have on Bwaka and Cummings that the CDC can use to advantage? Hoping, just hoping, and narrowly hoping that it will sell. What is that? You want to know it? Then stay tuned. We will be right back. So, folks, I'm back with you here. So, what would the CDC be using? What does the CDC have on Mr. Bwaka, on Mr. Cummings, the two opposition candidates who, based on last election, have some numbers that if they do everything to grow, one of them will be facing Mr. Weir. One of them will be making it to the second round. What does the CDC have on all these people, on these two men that it will be using? We are talking about the political playbook of 2023, folks. Our topic, the 2023 political playbook to election day. And I am bringing you the analysis. So what does the CDC have? Folks, number one, the CDC knows that Unity Party as a party is a baggage. They are going to tie the Unity Party blunders, we put S to it, because they have so many of them. The Unity Party corruption record, they're going to tie it to Bwaka. Folks, if there is a party, in the words of Mr. Bwaka, that squander opportunity at the highest level in our nation's history, that is Unity Party. Bwaka was right. Comrade Bwaka was ascent. He was point on when he said that we squander opportunities. Now, let me tell you this. When Mr. Bwaka was speaking that they squander opportunities, he said instead of focusing on implementation, they were doing PowerPoint presentation. When they should have used the little more money that they receive for the benefit of the people, they were paying so much salaries to themselves. Mr. Bwaka having said included, because Mr. Bwaka was getting more money in his budget than his own county of local county. So he was right. That is how they squander the opportunities, according to Mr. Bwaka. Now, there's one opportunity, the greatest of it all, that Mr. Bwaka did not see, that I'm going to tell you. That opportunity was the main fact that Liberia had just come from war. The country was like in the graveyard. We had nothing. It was a broken country. It was that the nation Liberia did not exist structurally except for the landscape. Nothing was working in Liberia. We didn't have electricity. The roads were bad. We didn't have water running. We had nothing. Our institutions were not renovated. They were in ruin. Nothing was working for us. It was bad. That situation Liberia was in, folks. Liberia was in the place where she had deserved about 20 billion to rebuild that country. About 50 billion to rebuild that country. The war lasted for 15 years or more. So a country devastated by 15 years, a country that lost its citizens in the tune of 250,000. Women were raped. Boys were sodomized. The future of the country was damaged. Star soldiers were all over the place. And the Unity Party did not see the need to make the case that Liberia had deserved billions. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf squandered that opportunity because Liberia was deserving of billions and billions and billions of dollars, if not in consensual or what they call contracts. Then Liberia needed loans in billions from the world powers to build. Only if Ellen did not squander that opportunity, only if Ellen had the eyes to see, only if Bwaka had the eyes to tell Ellen, only if Unity Party as a party have eyes to see that chaos and had turned it into an opportunity, to have seized on that opportunity, to make a case to the United States, to make the case to the world body that this nation is damaged beyond repair as a result of 15 years or more. This country deserves about 30 to 50 billions to rebuild. Only if they have made that case, apparently, or maybe they would have gotten about 20 billions there. That was the greatest opportunity of all that the Unity Party squandered. And no one sees it, but I see it. Ellen quickly settled for little peanuts here and there when they had the donor conference for Liberia. They raised $500 million. $500 million is nothing. It can't even support our educational system. This so-called clever, Harvard-educated, savvy political actor, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, this so-called sophisticated Unity Party, this genius, wise man, Joseph Bwaka, in the room, all these people couldn't see with their eyes that there were billions sitting down, or that there were billions they could get for the country that needed it, that was qualified for it, that had deserved it because of what it had gone through and because of the condition it was in. Syria is getting billions, 40 plus. Liberia did not get a single, except for foreign direct investment, that which actually, those investments were not money for Liberia. Those were people coming to Liberia to do business. That was the greatest opportunity of all the Unity Party squandered. So back to my point, the CDC is going to hammer on that. The Unity Party was corrupt. The little that came, they banned road no car. They were stealing in this country. They were paying themselves fabulous salary. They left our educational system into shambles. They left us with no reliable electricity in this country. They wasted the money on the hydro. They didn't do a much better job. They can recount all of these things, and they can also go after Mr. Bwaka's age. The age factor they're going to play, but that age thing, I don't think is going to sell. If that is what, if the CDC is going to bang on the age factor against Mr. Bwaka, I don't think it's going to sell, because Mr. Bwaka, he's alive. He's walking around. He's speaking. That age thing is not going to sell. CDC will use it, but I don't think it's a winning strategy for them. What may do a little favor for them may be this corruption history and squander opportunity, and that the Unity Party is no different from them. And in fact, the Unity Party has not been able to work with other political parties. That is all they have. They will be at the mercy of the voters to buy that lecture from the CDC. So at the end of it all, that's all they have. and they will be counting on the good graces of the voters. Now, what does the CDC have against Mr. Cummings? They will talk about Mr. Cummings' finger document. They will talk about Mr. Cummings' false signature. Mr. Cummings was careless in the filing and that he did not bring his corporate skills and leadership to politics. And that Mr. Cummings has been making one poor decision, from one to the other. That Mr. Cummings associates himself with Musa Bilete, who has questionable character. That Mr. Cummings is preaching you can't be doing the same thing over and over, but then he's in there with other bad actors. That's all they have. Now, the most terrible one they have on Mr. Cummings is this allegation, this accusation that Mr. Cummings is a gay. They're going to bring it. They have the tape. They have the tape out there, and they are just waiting for campaign. They're going to roll the tape. They're going to say Mr. Cummings said that this is a lifestyle that he struggles with, and they're going to interpret it that Mr. Cummings is who they believe he is. And that Liberia is not prepared for somebody like that to be president of Liberia. These guys going to engage into the nastiest politics of all. And there is anything nasty out there that they have on Mr. Cummings is this tape, this audio, this interview that was conducted by, I think, Mamadi Diakate. I hope I'm pronouncing that name well. They are going to use it. So my suggestion to the Cummings folks is they need to find a counter. They need to find a counter for that and be prepared for that. They used it in the past. They've used it here and there. Some are still talking about it. So hearing it from me is not me trying to say, I'm trying to put Mr. Cummings down. I'm doing a political analysis and telling you this is out there. This is going to be used. And so let the ANC be well prepared for this. Now, if you ask me for my personal opinion, in politics, it's fair game. But if I were running, I would not use that against anybody. I will not personally use that. But in this business, people use any information they have to their disposal that they believe is material enough against their opponent, and they will use it as they please. So if you are in that position, you should be prepared of anything that has any negative connotation or negative connotation against your character for your team to come up with a necessary response to combat that. They will use it. It's not because I'm saying it, because it is something that's going to do. They've done it, they're going to do it again. They've said it over and over. Now, they might well to go, Mr. Cummings is just calm. They will resurrect the citizenship thing that Mr. Cummings is a U.S. citizen. That thing too is not going to fly because they tried it didn't work on Mr. Cummings. Even on the other side, some people even try it on Mr. Weah. It didn't. So that whole citizenship thing is not going to work. Whether you take it to the law, it's not going to work. But they're going to do it anyway. Because there are some people who will believe that and act on that and not vote for Mr. Cummings. They will do it. So they're going to use all that. And that's all they have on Mr. Cummings. And how well they use it may well be of help in any way to them. I don't know. Again, it will be depending on how the voters will be feeling about Cummings, how the voters will be feeling about Mr. Weah, how the voters will be feeling about themselves. Now, the other thing we must talk about quickly here is now that Mr. Cummings has gone through all this, how will the ANC use their court setback as a catalyst for a better and bigger comeback? Mr. Cummings was accused of all of these things. He went to court. They dropped the charges. Even though he didn't get exonerated, a verdict that he wanted from the court. He did not get it, but that is out of the way. And we can well say it is reasonable to say that the accusers did not prove their case at all. They didn't prove it. No, they did not prove it. Even though the Supreme Court decision got them off the hook, but these people did not prove it. If they have had sufficient evidence, as they said, and if they have produced that in the court of law, chances are that they will have gotten the conviction that they were praying for, but they didn't get it. So Mr. Cummings, how does he use this information? That my accusers lie on me and they were not able to prove that I actually did what they accused me of. How can Mr. Cummings use that setback as a catalyst? How can he turn it into a bigger and much better opportunity? Will help him to make a serious comeback. Does Mr. Cummings and his team have the ability to turn this court case against Mr. Cummings into a positive political narrative that the Bwaka side, Ure, and the government, because they've been saying it, that this is a conspiracy, this is a witch hunt, these are trumped-up charges that the government, in collaboration with Mr. Bwaka and Benina Ure, trying to use to stab him, who happened to be a change candidate. And these are people who are, have been benefiting from the system. And he's coming to change the system. And because they don't want to see that, that is why they have ganged up against him to stab him, because he is the change. Now, so that is more like a line that they can use. But I mean, I don't see the meat around it. I don't see a strategy around it, other than it just being a talking point. So how do they tool it to be a strategy? How do they sustain it? How do they extend it everywhere? How do they bring others to the fold to be part of it? That is what they need to do. Now, whether or not they have the ability to do so, I believe they have the resources to do so. Do they have the individuals? Can they even fund the individuals? Can they even trust others to join their team to make that happen? That is another challenge for them. As far as I know, what the ANC has been doing, the ANC has always wanted to pull somebody on their side who will sing their song and who will not be critical minded. Just as soon as you raise a finger of critique against Mr. Cummings, they are coming after you. They have to broaden their tent. They have the narrowest path. They have the narrowest path, and they need to know that they really do. That acknowledgement, that recognition will help them. But whether or not that help is going to be enough, it will be contingent on how robustly they fight, how robustly they made their case, their strategies, their tactics, how they brought in the tent, how they grow their institution, how they engage into some do and that politics here and that there, how they form, if not collaboration or working relationship with other institutions and political actors, how they do all of these things, and how those things are meaningful, and how they sustain those things, and how they really preach their message to the Liberian people, how they take the fight to the CDC, how they do all of these things will bring the voters just maybe to their corner. But I maintain the chance is so slim. And using cash violence, I know the CDC going to use cash violence. They're going to infiltrate the opposition collaboration that is going to come up. And I also know Mr. Cummings Also is going to use cash violence. I know my ANC folks don't want to hear that. He used to use cash violence. And using cash violence in election to be open to you in politics, I don't mind. It's a political tool. If I were a politician with money, even if my money would fail me, but the mere fact that that is what I have, I would just have to find a way to use it in a more strategic way for it to benefit me. Who doesn't want money? Who will have money and not use the money? If you have money right now, what will you be doing? You'll be getting what you want. So if you are a politician, you have money, you will use your money to get what you want. How you use it to get what you want will give you the result that you want. But if you are just spending the money just because you have money, then you are wasting money. I know many of you are horrible wasteful spending, where you spend money in a way that is not intelligent, that is not purposeful, that is not strategic, will not give you the results. It will be money spent in vain. That is all you need to do. No. So, folks, and finally, the playbook is what I have just read to you. The 2023 political playbook to election day. This is how it's all going to play out. I maintain there are about mainly 3 candidates to be, and I'm adding a 4th one, Tier 1. Tier 1 is behind. He's the best candidate among the 4. I can say that to you for free. Tier 1 is the best candidate among the 4 candidates to be. Now we are Mr. Bwaka, Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Gonglo. Of the 4, Tier 1 is the best. Best in terms of character. Best in terms of understanding the issues. Best in terms of knowing what is at stake. Best in terms of putting a team together. Tier 1 is best. But Tier 1 is not best when it comes to numbers. Tier 1 is not best when it comes to resources. So we have to decide what is best when we are looking for best. So in politics, the best person does not always win. One with the best strategy, one who builds collaboration, one who fights a good fight. Good fight is dependent on whether you get the numbers. You can have a good message, it's good, but does your message get you the numbers? Does your strategy get you the numbers to win? Only when your strategy and the message and your money get you the numbers to win, then that is a good fight. I mean, that is the best fight. So at the end of the day, why it is true that Tier 1, in my personal opinion, is a much better candidate among the 4. I'm not sure he's necessarily the best person when it comes to winning. Because at the end of the day, it's about winning. If you can win, your best will remain in the bag. So that brings us to Cummings, to Bwaka, and Weah. And of the 3, Cummings is the least likely to make it to the second round. Bwaka is the most likely to make it to the second round. President Weah is also most likely to make it to the second round because he has the people with him, and I'm sure many of them are sticking with him. If you look at past numbers, he performed better than the 3. So there's no reason to doubt that he stands a chance in the second round. There's no doubt to also believe Mr. Bwaka stands a much better chance in the second round compared to Mr. Cummings. So Mr. Cummings is the underdog here. Tier 1 will have to become the magic guy. He has to work the political magic to make it happen. Now, whoever pays Tier 1, whoever acts quickly, that would be a plus to that person. Tier 1, as we know, is not in the coalition that's been put together for Mr. Bwaka. Tier 1 is not in the CPP. Now, these two men, Waka and Cummings, whatever they are doing to get Tier 1, I don't know. But it is obvious that any of them will want Tier 1. Tier 1 comes from Nimba. Nimba is vote rage. The Gonglo family the Gonglo family does have a serious name recognition. Even though Tier 1 has not won anything, nationally speaking, except for the National Bar Association that he contested and won, that does not take away the fact that he's a prominent son of Nimba County. And thousands of Nimbayans will vote for him. We've seen it. He's in the U.S. We see Nimba people gather to welcome him, to identify with him. So that obviously is going to translate into significant amount of votes at the end of the day. So, folks, this is how it's going to play out. I was succinct by telling you it is much more obvious that Mr. Cummings is the least likely to make it to the second round. For him to make it to the second round, option number one is to get Waka out of the way. How he does it, he has to find that way. That is his surest way of not only making it to the second round, but that is his surest way of making it to the presidency. In as much as Waka is in his way, he can never and ever be sure of making it to the executive mansion. Once Waka is in the way. Waka is in the way, his chance to the second round is slim. If gets Waka out of the way, I guarantee you, he stands a better chance of becoming president than President Weah. For Waka, he stands a much better chance of making it to the second round. Now, how he beats President Weah is when he is to get Cummings and the Unity Party, the ANC. If he is to get all that he can get from Liberty Party, and if he is to get all that he can possibly get from ACO, and if he is to get the endorsement of Tier 1, whether or not Tier 1 goes with him as vice president at the end of the day. Malians, these possibilities, history might be repeated. The way to be President Weah that is clear and known right now is either Waka and Cummings, or Waka is out of the way, Tier 1 Cummings, or Cummings Tier 1. When Waka is out of the picture, it is a resounding defeat for President Weah. When that is not in the way, if it is to be a repeat of 2017, President Weah has hope. But his hope will be contingent on what the voters will be thinking, what they will be feeding. Will they be feeding that Joshua is better than the opposition? If the feeling will be that Joshua is worse, then Waka can beat him. And when Waka is to get the entire opposition behind him. Folks, I have to leave it. That is the political playbook of 2023. That is how, in my best opinion and judgment and observation, is going to play it out. Nothing is impossible in this world. That's just the greatest philosophy I live by. That anything is possible. Who have thought that men will go on the moon? Who have thought that there will be something internet that I can sit here and thousands of people around the world can see me? Whoever thought that would be possible? Whoever thought that I'll be in a room and a lot of people would be listening to me while I speak to them millions of miles away? So if all of these things are possible, if I can tell my cell phone and call my mother in Southtown and talk to her, whoever thought that would have even be possible? So if all of these very Impossible things have become possible today. Somebody winning the presidency is just the easiest of all. So why, if true, I have submitted these possibilities for any of these three major candidates, folks, I must say to you, it is doable. And let me end with Tier 1. The only way Tier 1 wins this thing, if Tier 1 were to become the candidate of the entire opposition. That is the only way. Anything short of that, Tier 1 cannot become the president. If you ask me, who you rather become president of Liberia, of course, many of you know, I would want to see Tier 1 as the president. It's not a support for him. It's not, because I don't support politicians. I'm just saying this for the sake of this analysis, because some of you ask me all the time, what do you want? Because you just criticizing everybody. Who do you want? I criticized Tier 1. Oh yes, I have criticized him, and I'll continue to do so. But yet he's a better candidate. But I know his chance of winning it, even common chances, are better than Tier 1 chances, because of the political variables, because of the political structure, because of the actors we have. And that is sad for our country. Until I see you again when I do. My name is Ansony Sieh, and I brought you the topic, the 2023 political playbook to election day. This playbook will play out, and the candidates will do all they can to flip the pages. And the final page will be turned on election day. I will tell you when that time comes who's going to be the winner. I love you all. Continue to follow us, focus on Liberia for fair, balanced analysis. One that will inform you of the facts. One that will elevate the discourse. One that you will be proud of, that this is Liberia. This represents Liberia. This looks like Liberia. It is void of insults and disrespect for others. This is something I can share with a neighbor who might be from another country. We are focused on Liberia and will remain true to our cause. We educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. And because we are all Liberians, we will always close with a song that says, we are all Liberians. You are. I am. Thank you for watching. May God bless you. Don't forget the topic, the political playbook of 2023. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberians.